Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Law, SOL, Certificate in Anti-Human Trafficking, CAHT. BLE 033 Rehabilitation and Prevention. Block-1 Rehabilitation. Unit-1 Rehabilitation Institutions and Their Role. 1.1 Introduction. Trafficking presents to us worst possible abuse of multiple vulnerabilities that impair and marginalize women and children. It is the recreation of processes of purposive subjection to involuntary servitude, peonage, debt bondage, or slavery. The journey of being trafficked and a life exploitation destroys the mind, body, and souls of individuals. The road to recovery is a long-drawn process aiming to restore hope, trust, confidence, and faith in self and in humankind. 1.2 Objectives. After going through the unit, you should be able to discuss the term rehabilitation, clarify all the myths and misconceptions related to the concept of rehabilitation, describe the various institutions involved in rehabilitation and their roles, and analyze the need for convergent action. 1.3 Meaning of rehabilitation. The UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, CRC, Art 39 states state party shall take all measures to promote physical and psychological recovery and social reintegration of child victim of any form of neglect, exploitation or abuse, torture or any other form of cruel, inhumane or degrading treatment or punishment or armed conflicts. Such recovery and reintegration shall take place in an environment which fosters the health, self-respect, and dignity of the child. The above statement is an indication of what is the end goal of all rehabilitation processes. And therefore, if we have to define the process of rehabilitation, it would mean creating a nurturing and healing environment which foster health, restores self-respect and dignity of a victim and is inclusive of measures to promote physical, psychological recovery and social reintegration of victim. In real practical terms, rehabilitation is not a job that you have to do. It is a way of thinking, strategizing and acting. For a victim of trafficking, it is a combination of psychological healing, economic empowerment and gaining civic identity. 1.4 Importance of rehabilitation. The impact of all anti-human trafficking interventions invariably depends on how effectively the rehabilitation measures have been taken. Starting from prevention, it influences the rescue process, the judicial recourse and most importantly the preparedness for social reintegration. When victims are successfully rehabilitated, it not only reduces the number of human beings still living in exploitative situation, but it also prevents the birth of a perpetrator of crime. It has been observed across the globe that when victims do not get access to holistic rehabilitation programs, they end up graduating as procurers and over a period of time become brothel keepers and traffickers. Effective rehabilitation also decides the prosecution process, as the chances of a victim testifying in the court is higher when she is not only out of the exploitative situation but is also gaining lot self-respect and dignity. Case 1. When Sheila, 12 years, lured to Mumbai from Andhra Pradesh with the offer of a job as domestic help, refused to have sex, she was dragged into the basement used for breaking in new girls. She was locked in a narrow, windowless room without food and water. On the 4th day, she still refused to work. One of Madam's thugs, called Gunda, wrestled her to the floor and banged her head against the concrete until she passed out. When she awoke, she was naked. A cane smeared with red chilies had been shoved up her vagina. They tortured her until she said, yes. Monica, 14 years, thought she was going to be a babysitter, but when the huge uncle came and started touching her in all the wrong places, she was scared and she ran away. The auntie caught her as she ran through the corridor and slapped her hard on the face. 2 other men also did the same, and then they dragged her into a room and bolted from outside. Inside the room in a small box a snake was also kept. For 8 days they starved her, and every day the auntie came with 2 men, slapped her and asked, "Will you do it?" When she said no, the men also beat her. On the 9th day Monica agreed. Sheila and Monica were rescued when they were 15 years and 17 years respectively. After being tested, both were found to be HIV positive. It took more than 3 months for both Sheila and Monica to trust their caregivers and share their stories. Sheila had a lot of sexually transmitted infections which needed immediate medical care, and Monica, who had become a substance abuser, required de-addiction support. Slowly, after 6 months, both the girls starting recovering from their trauma, Sheila decided to book a case against her traffickers and brothel keepers. 16 of them were arrested. In the meantime, both Sheila and Monica underwent life skill training and consequently chose bookbinding and masonry as their choice of livelihood, respectively. Today both are employed. Sheila's evidence in the court ensured conviction of 16 traffickers for a period of 10 years. 1.5 Myths and misconceptions. Most people in the society have a perceived notion that rehabilitation of a victim of trafficking, especially those trafficked for commercial sexual exploitation, is not possible. The misconceptions range from notions such as all forms of exploitation is a form of voluntary choice, that victims enjoy being tortured, and that it is with their informed consent that they are in such situations. These myths and misconceptions are widespread among all stakeholders, so much so that the word victim is also a new concept for most of them. This has adversely affected any proactive positioning for rehabilitation, both at the level of the state and for the civil society. It is very important, therefore, to understand the journey of victims in the process of being trafficked and their life thereafter, to internalize the word victim and in that context revisit the term rehabilitation. The most important component to design a holistic rehabilitation program is to understand the lives of victims and evolve a need-based intervention which will support victims to rebuild their lives from scratch. Case 2. Sita, 16 years, was the fourth child in her family. Her two older sisters were married, and her older brother was working as a daily wager. Situation at home had systematically worsened after the 2 weddings compounded with 2 droughts and 1 flood, when a neighbor came and offered a job in jeans factory in Mumbai. The family jumped with joy and sent Sita with the neighbor. The journey to Mumbai was pleasant and Sita was overawed by all the sights around her. Although she could not understand a word of what was being spoken around her, she was confident that she would easily fit in any new situation. On reaching Mumbai, Sita was shocked by the surge of crowd around her. On reaching the destination, she had further discomforting feeling seeing so many women in varying clothes with weird gestures. As all this was new, she thought maybe this is the culture of the city. Little did she know what was in store for her. When the neighbor left her with an auntie who asked her to get ready, Sita was confused. Nevertheless, she did what was asked of her. Sita's world crashed around her when 2 men raped her that night. Next day she tried to escape, but the auntie and her goons caught her. And to teach her a lesson, an auto rickshaw went over her feet. The brothel keepers showed her the pictures they had taken of her on the first day and threatened to send it to her family. 3 days later there was a police raid where many girls from the same brothel were picked up, but Sita could not escape as she was hidden inside a water tank. Sita lost all hope to escape. She gave in and slowly started catering to 10 to 15 customers a day. To forget her trauma and to deal with different needs of customers, Sita starting drinking alcohol and also using drugs which will keep her active throughout the night. After a few months, Sita started identifying means to survive without physical violence. She developed relationship with a pimp who became her keep and protector. In the beginning 2 years, Sita had 6 abortions and a series of infections. In 5 years' time, Sita started finding ways to increase her income by procuring new girls. Sita was rescued when she was 21 years old. She had a pimp as her keep and she was already involved in procuring other girls. 1.6 A multidisciplinary approach. The term multidisciplinary team refers to a group of individuals who have been trained to collaborate in a systematic way, using their diverse range of skills and expertise to solve certain problems based on the same goals and objectives. Such teams regularly exchange information and share responsibilities, from the problem assessment phase at the beginning to the resolution of the process at the end. The concept of multidisciplinary team is based on the recognition that it is not possible for a single profession to provide comprehensive services that would yield maximum benefits for the victim. Cases of exploitation necessitate the involvement of several different fields of expertise in order to obtain a holistic range of services, thus underscoring the importance of teamwork. The key concepts behind a multidisciplinary approach are: Victim-centered. Professional services. Multi-professional assessment prior to service provision. The key professions represented in a multidisciplinary team dealing with trafficked victims are legal professions, police, prosecutors, judges and lawyers. Social workers, physicians, psychiatrist, psychotherapist, psychologist. Vocational experts, educationist. Working as a multidisciplinary team does not imply the establishment of a concrete agency or organization. Rather, it refers to the tangible collaboration amongst relevant professionals who work together when necessary, in order to progressively assess needs and provide services to victims of trafficking based on their functional characteristics. Teams may be categorized as two types. 1. An interdisciplinary team involves various professionals working in the same field. Team members mainly coordinate through information sharing and coordination of resources. Meetings are not required in this process. 2. A multidisciplinary team is an integrative effort whereby professionals who are involved in the same specific issues meet to pool together resources and determine best approaches. Members assist one another through the utilization of their knowledge, skills and expertise in their respective fields. Victims of trafficking endure harmful repercussions that affect their physical and mental health, sometimes contributing to personality and behavioral disorders and disturbing the normal development process. These negative impacts require a range of recovery services represented by the assorted professions on a multidisciplinary team. For example, a victim of sex trafficking needs both a physician and a gynecologist for her health needs, a psychologist, psychotherapist, counselor for her mental health needs, avocational experts for her livelihood needs, and a legal expert for judicial recourse. This multidisciplinary team needs to work together to diagnose the problem, evaluate the needs, prioritize strategies, pool team resources and plan and implement the rehabilitation regimen. 1.7 Institutions involved in rehabilitation. There are various institutions involved in rehabilitation, both run by government and non-government bodies. These institutions include 1. Protective home. These are institutions established or licensed under Sec. 21 of the Immoral Traffic Persons Prevention Act, 1986, in which persons, women. Scheme Ujjwala, which provides safe shelter for victims of trafficking and is largely run by GOs. 5. Short Stay Home. These homes, supported by the Central Social Welfare Board, provides temporary shelter for women in distress and is mostly run by GOs. 6. State Home. These institutions are established by Dept of Women Development and Child Welfare in every state to provide safe shelter and protection to women in distress. Any institutional mechanisms or rehabilitation is supported by various other institutions that provide specialized services to support the rehabilitation program. Some such institutions are 1. Hospitals, 2. The addiction centers, 3. Psychiatric clinics, nursing homes, 4. Anti-retroviral centers, 5. Voluntary counseling and testing centers, 6. Educational institutions, 7. Vocational training centers, 8. Corporate houses, 9. Legal aid cells, 10. Spiritual education centers. 1.8 Roles and functions. The process of rehabilitation is a long-drawn one and, as cited earlier, requires a multidisciplinary input to make it holistic and effective. The roles and functions of all the institutions are so much interlinked that no one institution can really make a deep impact without the active participation of others. In the chronology of events, the roles and functions could be described as follows. Provide safe and secure shelter, which is non-judgmental and unconditional. Ensure that nutritious diet, clothing, bedding etc. appropriate to victims' need is provided for in the shelter. Ensure timely medical care for crisis intervention and complete health care plan, including care for HIV, AIDS. Provide specialized support such as drug addiction, detoxification etc. for victims who are substance abusers and alcoholics. Provide psychotherapeutic support through counselor, psychologist, and psychiatrist for trauma care. Provide life skill training in conflict management, anger management, interpersonal skills, grooming, social skills, relationship building, teamwork etc. Provide viable and sustainable livelihood training ensuring job placements. Create channels for social reintegration both with a safe family and the larger society. Facilitate justice delivery through judicial recourse. 1.9 Summary. Rehabilitation of victims of trafficking is a series of process requiring inputs from various disciplines. Effective rehabilitation can be done only as collaborative effort and cannot be seen as a standalone event. It is also important to understand that all anti-trafficking interventions directly depend on rehabilitation for their positive outcome. A number of institutions play a key role in this process, and it requires long-term commitment from all stakeholders, especially the ones who are running safe shelters, homes for such victims. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with the next chapter.